Hi fam, how you doing? It's a beautiful Sunday afternoon. I am Theresa Moses, a.k.a. Tessy Gold, a.k.a. Adorable, a creative journalist with an extraordinary personality. Welcome to my world of sharing your thoughts to inspire you to be unique. It's the thoughts that count. Do not forget that. Yeah, today is another exciting edition of Sharing Your Thoughts. I'll be talking about addiction. What are you addicted to? When addiction is mentioned, a whole lot of people think it's about substance, but there is more to it. Addiction is a complex issue. Like I said, it's world's most complex issue. Research has it that addiction is now classified as a disease that affects the brain. Most people think of substance use when they hear about addiction, but that's not the only type of addiction. Today, most experts recognize two types of addiction. I'll be talking about them. Chemical addiction and behavioral addiction. But the focus of sharing your thought addiction, we are not focusing on chemical addiction. I'm not focusing on that. I'm basically focusing on behavioral addiction. That is where I'm focusing on. But that doesn't mean I won't mention it. I will just talk about it, but I'm not going to emphasize so much on it. Two types of addiction: chemical addiction and behavioral addiction. Chemical addiction refers to the addiction that involves the use of substance, just like the word chemical, substance, drugs and all that. While behavioral addiction refers to addiction that involves compulsive behaviors. These are persistent, repeated behaviors that you carry on even if they don't offer any real benefits to you. You see why I'm talking about behavioral addiction? That is my focus. People understand addiction when it comes to a dependence on substance, such as alcohol, illicit drugs like the cannabis, the heroin, the nicotine, cocaine, and the rest of others, or even prescription drugs. It is also possible to develop a behavioral addiction when you get hooked on everything from gambling to sex to phone to the internet to social media and a whole lot of other things. Some activities are so normal that it's difficult to believe that people can become addicted to them. Yes. But the cycle of addiction can still take over, making everyday life a constant struggle. Despite the struggle, people still seek more time to engage in the behavior, ignoring its negative consequences. For the sake of addiction, I'm going to just briefly talk about the chemical addiction. But remember, don't expect me to talk so much about chemical addiction. It's not my focus. The focus is basically on behavioral addiction. So I'm going to do more on behavioral addiction, but I'm going to still talk a little about chemical addiction. Chemical addiction can be complicated to discuss. Chemical addiction can be complicated to discuss because there's often confusion around what constitutes substance misuse, dependency, and addiction. Many experts also prefer it because they prefer to avoid using. Many experts also prefer it to avoid using the terms like abuse. Some of the common symptoms of substance use disorder. So you understand, substance use disorder, kind of addiction. Some of the substance include some of the common symptoms. Common symptoms include intense cravings for more affect your ability to think about relevant things. Yes, when you're craving for a particular alcohol or particular substance, it affects your ability to think about relevant things. That's why when you notice people who are into substance abuse, who are addicted to it, they are actually in their own world because they don't really understand the outside world, the real world we're living in. There's a feeling of discomfort or unease if unable to access that substance. When they are addicted to a particular thing, they're unable to access it, they become uncomfortable, they become unease. Risky substance use, like driving or walking while using it, can lead to death. You take a substance and you're driving. The rate of accident is increasing every day. The Federal Road Safety is doing its own, but the rate of substance abuse has led to so many untimely deaths. Due to substance use, you tend to find trouble managing work, school, or household responsibility perfectly. Yes, you're no longer active the way you should be. You're no longer productive. That is what I'm talking about. You spend less time on activities you usually love to do. See the symptoms of chemical addiction? Inability to stop using the substance. You find it very difficult to do without using that substance in a day. The focus is on behavioral addictions, like I talked about. It's a serious issue. Behavioral addiction, which is also called process addiction, follow the same pattern as substance-based addiction. That is why I had to quickly brief on chemical addiction. Chemical addiction is the same thing as substance-based addiction. It's the same thing, substance, chemical, which results in problems in many areas of one's life. It has similar effects to chemical or substance addiction, which are often neglected. Okay. As a result of difficulties arising from behavioral addiction, undermining trust, we put pressure on partners and family members to cover up and make up. Family members, one or two of our family members are addicted to a particular behavior, and it's affecting their well-being, affecting their productivity, affecting their person. But because we in this part of the world, we don't want to hear anything like go see a psychology. Once you just say go see a psychologist or a psychiatrist, the next thing that comes to one mind is I'm not mad though, I'm not going. Because of that, everybody wants to cover up the family member, that if that person go to say a psychologist or a psychiatrist, that means that person is running mad or something. But that isn't the case. Although experts disagree about whether behavioral addiction are real addictions, but have included behaviors in the addiction category, while gambling disorder is the only officially recognized behavioral addiction. Outside the world of professional psychology, the media has taken on and embraced the concept of behavioral addiction, such as sex addiction and shopping addiction, as well as activities that are not included in the discussion about addiction, including self-injury, multiple plastic surgeries, and the rest of them. We are evolving. So many trends are trending, so many things are coming up, and a whole lot of people are addicted to it. So with time, in the next 10 years, in the next 15 years, in the next 20 years, most of these things we indulge in today will be classified under some behavioral disorders, and will be given some terms. By then, a whole lot of lives must have been lost to it. So that is why we need to focus on our behaviors, focus on what we are so in love with, our hobbies, they might turn out to be an addiction to us, and it might, one way or the other, affect our lives. Types of addictive behavior. Although most of these addictions are not recognized by the leading diagnostic guide of the mental health profession, many healthcare providers believe these are distressing conditions. These distressing conditions can be treated, and some behavioral addictions are more common than others. Okay, we have addiction like the gambling, sex addiction, phone addiction, internet addiction, shopping addiction, video game addiction, food addiction, exercise addiction, work addiction, tattoo addiction, porn addiction, and a whole lot of others. I'm just mentioning few. Among the list I've mentioned, one way or the other, some of us are addicted to it. We practice it. Subconsciously, we find ourselves being addicted to it. Knowingly or unknowingly. You might see it as a way of whiling away time, but it's actually affecting our health. Even when not specifically labeled as an addiction, the behavior can lead to real problems in our individual life, functionings, and relationships. These behaviors can also create considerable distress and be difficult to change, even when the person wants to stop engaging in such actions. If the behavior is causing distress and disrupting your life, please don't keep quiet. Talk to a doctor, talk to a mental health care professional, see a psychologist or a psychiatrist. It does not make you to be a mad person. It does not make you to be mad. It's just about helping your health, helping your well-being. The fact that you go to consult a medical practitioner doesn't mean you're sick. But at least we go to hospital for regular checkup to be sure of our health, to avoid complex issues. So please, when you notice you're addicted to some kind of behaviors, please seek help. I keep talking about seeking help. Don't keep quiet. Signs of behavioral addictions. Understanding the addictive process and the danger sign can help you to tell the difference between addictive behavior, problematic behavior that are not addiction, and normal behavior that's non-problematic or healthy. One of the signs is this: when you're spending majority of your time engaging in the behavior, thinking about it, preparing to engage in it, or recovering from the effect. 2, becoming dependent on the behavior as a way to cope with emotions and to feel normal. 3, continuing despite physical or mental harm. 4, having trouble cutting back despite wanting to quit. 5, neglecting work, school, or family to engage in the behavior more often. 6, experiencing symptoms of withdrawal. For example, depression when trying to stop. How addiction generally works. Addiction interferes with normal brain function, particularly in the reward system. When you do something you find enjoyable, whether that's hanging out with your best friend, drinking a bottle of wine, or using illicit drug, this reward system releases the neurotransmitter dopamine. The dopamine is a neurotransmitter that plays several important roles in the brain and body, along with other chemicals. Contrary to popular belief, dopamine doesn't appear to actually cause feelings of pleasure or euphoria. Instead, it seems to interfere reinforce your brain's association between certain things and feelings of pleasure, driving you to seek something out again in the future. I hope you understand what I'm trying to say. Cravings and tolerance. The thought about the desire to experience this pleasure again could trigger cravings for the substance or behavior, especially when you encounter the same circumstances. For instance, when you go to a party where people are drinking, the cravings often as want to go back again to want to drink. It's a sign of addiction. As you continue using a substance or engaging in a behavior, your brain continues to produce larger amount of dopamine. Eventually, it recognizes that there is a plenty of dopamine in your brain already, and it starts producing less in response to normal triggers. The problem now is that your brain's reward system will need the same amount of dopamine to function as it should. Before you know it, you begin to use more of the substance to make up for what your brain isn't releasing. This effect is called tolerance. Lack of interest in other activities. As addiction develops, you start to lose interest in hobbies and other things you once enjoyed or loved doing. This happens because your brain no longer produces much dopamine in response to natural triggers like having sex or making acts, even when Sorry for the break in transmission. I guess the network is acting up this afternoon. Let me talk about the lack of interest in other activities. As addiction develops, you start to lose interest in the hobbies and other things you once enjoyed or loved doing. This happens because your brain no longer produces much dopamine in response to natural triggers like having sex or making acts. Even when you decide to stop using a substance or engaging in a behavior, you might feel like you still need them in order to feel good about something. Loss of control. Addiction usually involves an inability to control the use of substance or specific behaviors. This may result in job loss, health issue, relationship concern, and many more other things. As a result, you might decide to quit the substance or behavior only to find that you keep falling short or getting drowned despite all your best to get out of it, to let go of that behavior. Living with a behavioral addiction. It can be difficult to admit to oneself, let alone someone else, that you have a problem. And it can even be harder when the problem is poorly understood and may not be taken seriously by friends and family. Understanding the stages of change will help you to be gentle on yourself if you aren't ready to seek help. If you feel you don't want to seek help in overcoming your behavioral addiction at this time, focus on ensuring that your behavior doesn't harm those around you or yourself. Even if you don't want to tell other people about your problem, try not to lie to those close to you. Try not. Because those close to you are those people that will help you, are those people that love you, are those people that care about your well-being. Don't think about what people would say. People have always been saying, it's the nature of man for people to talk. So people will definitely talk. So don't focus on what people will say, but focus on how you get help. Seek help. Self-help can be an important first step in dealing with addiction. Consider finding out more about the behavior, some of the ways you can manage it. If you don't want to like tell people about your behavioral addiction, you can start by going to the internet, making some research, do a personal contact with medical practitioners and experts about that particular behavior. Seek help by telling on your own if you don't want to share it to people, if you feel you don't want people to hear about it and all that. So it's oftentimes people with behavioral addiction eventually tire of their behavior. It takes on their lives and the lives of those around them. They may also suffer loss that seems too great to bear, as such as money problem, relationship issues, and a whole lot. What had at one point seemed exciting and fulfilling becomes an embarrassing burden to them. All these are what addiction does to you. Addiction is a serious issue. Seeking help is the best you can do for yourself. In all you do, please see a psychiatrist or a psychologist who is skilled in helping people to overcome emotional difficulties and making changes in their lives. If you or a loved one is struggling with a behavioral addiction, seek help immediately. Many people live with behavioral addiction. Some don't even know they are addicted, which can wreak havoc on one's life. To be honest with you, this topic or this issue, this thought on addiction, was actually inspired by a family friend someone that is so dear to me, I respect so much. He called me up one evening and told me his niece, a 15-year-old niece, 15 years old teenager, attempted committing suicide because her mother seized her phone in less than 24 hours. In less than 24 hours, your mobile phone was seized from you. And the next thing you thought of doing is committing suicide. What does that tell you? In this part of the world, we always believe in so many fetish things and all that. But the reality is, life is what it is. So I try make some research, ask some questions, and arrive at addiction. That was the basic, and I realized a whole lot of people are passing through that same circumstances. People are addicted to a particular thing, and they don't even know they are addicted. They think it's a way of life. They think it's a lifestyle. They think it's normal, but it's not. It's actually a problem, a major one at that. Addiction is a serious issue. I mentioned a whole lot of things that people be addicted to. But let me briefly talk about social media addiction. Social media addiction, I will talk extensively about it next week, but I just want to brief us about it. Just share a little idea to you about it. First, social media started as a way to connect with friends and family. It since evolved into a desired hobby used by all age groups, the young, the middle-aged, and the old inclusive. You may enjoy social media and use it on a daily basis. But unanswered question by many is, are you addicted to it? If you find yourself losing several minutes or even hours at a time after using social media, you are not alone but addicted. There might not be any such thing as an official diagnosis of social media addiction, but in reality, social media overuse is increasingly commonplace today, and it may soon have some serious repercussions on one's physical and mental health. It doesn't matter what you use social media for, either to connect with your friends and loved ones, watch videos, or simply kill time. You will agree with me that the popularity of this pastime has significantly increased over the last decade. This is especially the case in children and teenagers, as well as young middle-aged adults. You may want to ask, how does a seemingly harmless hobby turn into an addiction? It's a tough one. Like other types of behavioral addictions, using social media can influence your brain in harmful ways. When you use social media compulsively and excessively, you can become so used to scrolling through posts, images, videos on social media that it interferes with other areas of your life. You will agree with me that due to how common social media use is in general, the number of those who have social media addiction may be higher. Please note, not everyone who uses social media will develop an addiction. Don't get it twisted. What I'm saying is that since this activity is becoming more accessible to more people, there's a possibility that more people may develop an addiction to social media at some point in their lives. Don't get it twisted. At some point in one's life. And let me tell you why social media is so addicting. While social media can seem like mindless and relaxing fun, it actually has a significant effect on your brain. Whenever you log on to your favorite apps, dopamine signals in your brain increases. These neurotransmitters are associated with pleasure. When you experience more dopamine after using social media, your brain identifies this activity as a rewarding one that you ought to repeat again and again and again. Such a reaction may be more felt whenever you make a post of your own and gain positive feedback. I want you to know that the positive feelings experienced during social media use are only temporary. The way your brain engages in this positive reinforcement is also seen in other addictions. Do you know what happens when the feel-good dopamine wears out or wears off? You will go back to the source, and the source in this case is the social media. For more, in some cases, social media can be a welcome distraction if you are isolated due to work or an illness. The more you engage, the more your brain will tell you that this is an activity that can help reduce loneliness, which may not necessarily be the case actually. When you're bored, you pick up your mobile phone. When you pick up your mobile phone and start chatting, talking, scrolling to see pages, see stories, see things, the truth of the matter is you get you want to go back again to keep doing the same thing because it's kill away time. Or for instance, you're in an office and you're waiting to see to meet up for your appointment, and they tell you to hold on for the next 15 minutes. And we felt, oh, there's nothing I will do in the next 15 minutes. You just carry your phone and you start going through your social media and all that to while away time, to kill time. But that little thing you think you're doing to kill time is actually affecting your life. It's actually affecting your well-being. I'm going to stop today on addiction. Next week or by weekend, I'm going to conclude the issue of addiction. But what I need you to do is, if you have been addictive or addicted to a particular thing, a particular behavior, a particular substance, whatever thing, I mentioned a whole list of them. Either food, shopping, porn, video game, gambling, all sorts of things you do. Your social media, some apps, you're addicted to some apps on your social media. Please, I need you to seek help. I need you to, don't take it for granted. Have you ever thought why one of Africa's richest, who owns a telecom company, doesn't use social media? He cannot be found in any social media, and he does not use any social media apps on his phone. He is one of Africa's richest. He does not do it, and a whole lot of other people don't do the same thing. So why do you have to kill yourself? Spend your whole time on social media when it doesn't bring you any positivity. I'm not saying social media is bad. I'm not saying you don't need social media. What I am saying is, whatever thing you do in life, be moderate about it. Don't do it to the extreme. Whatever thing that gets to the extreme is addictive. And whatever thing that is addictive, it's difficult to let go. And it affects your productivity, it affects your well-being, it affects everything about you. That hobby, the habit that you do and you feel it's a way of life, you feel it's normal, you feel it makes you happy, it feels that is the only way you find comfort. My brother, my sister, think about it. It's not going to help you. It's not going to give you comfort. It's not going to give you satisfaction either. So, why don't you decide to do away with it? And why don't you decide to seek help? It's important to seek help. It's very, very important to seek help from people who care about you. I've always been saying, love yourself. Because if you do love yourself, you will be able to love others. And the only way you love yourself is you know something is wrong with you. Please don't keep quiet. Share. Seek help. If you seek help, people are there to help you. Don't get it twisted that a whole lot of people will talk. It is man's nature for people to talk. They will definitely talk. You can't rule that away. So why dwell on the thing that is inevitable? Focus on your health. Focus on your well-being. Focus on your productivity. And the only thing that you make you who you are, make you unique, is when you are you. And when you are you, you become healthy, you're productive. That is where you become. I still remember your girl, Theresa Moses, a creative journalist with an extraordinary personality, and it's sharing your thoughts. It's all about inspiring you to be unique. Don't forget, you can reach us on email, evertest2010@gmail.com, or through the comment section, or on our YouTube page at Match TV for more videos. Always reach out to somebody, reach out to your friends, reach out to your loved ones. Don't keep quiet. When you notice something is wrong with a friend, a relative, a brother, please check up on those people. Check up on them. Look after them. Don't dwell on the social media. Don't dwell on your mobile phone. Move to face reality. The reality is look after people. Check on them. And wherever people find us, whatever condition they are going through, please don't laugh at them. Don't take it for granted. Don't take it for granted. It's making a whole lot of people to enclose themselves in their shell. They don't want to come out because of what people will feel. Somebody seek help, ask for help. If you don't have solution, go help them, look for somebody to help them. And you don't have solution, you're there castigating them, talking down on them. A whole lot of people have died because of that. So please, let's look out for each other. Let's look out for one another. Let's love each other genuinely. Thank you. Have a wonderful day. Bye.